Right, here we go then. I hope to put into plain English. I hope to explain the situation about what's really going on in this world of liars. The Illuminati, basically. The British government, the United States government, the Russian government, who since 1947, even from the Philadelphia experiment, have known the truth. That is T-R-U-T-H, the truth, by the way, gentlemen. And that's for these assassinated or assassins, pricks that are used by covert groups to shut ufologists up. And I welcome them to try to shut me up. I've been an occultist since 17. I'm 63. I don't look too bad because I don't deteriorate. I don't frighten. Nobody frightens me, and I mean nobody. I'm sure the Illuminati are aware of me. Positively sure of that. They're waiting to see what's going to happen. And in that respect, it's because of all the strange encounters and paranormal experiences I've had since a little boy of 4-year-old. At 4-year-old, I remember telling my mother that I can remember before I was born. Quite easily. And I can bring all that back. I don't lose memory at all. Vision, nothing. Never have, never will. I can remember being born into a kind of a cocoon-shaped transparent shell. And all around me were beautiful planets, different coloured multitude of planets moving around in space and time. And I enjoyed it. I watched this. Reds and greens and blue planets. I wasn't aware I was in a kind of a shell. I was aware, however, that I had no corporal body, no materialised solid form. I was aware, however, that I heard some beautiful heavenly music, if that's what you want to call it, which I've yet to hear since. I could see and I could hear, but I had no form. I was also transparent, no organics, nothing. And after a while, there appeared in front of me a dark hole. Its perimeter was probably 2 or 3 inches. And as it began to enlarge, it started to drag me through a tunnel. And I accelerated and went through this tunnel and came into what you call reality. I don't, but you do. So in fact, I can remember before I was in the womb. I can remember travelling down the birth canal and then coming out into your world. That's quite explicit. That's not a problem to me. That was when I was 4-year-old. When I was 6-year-old, my parents looked after a kind of a haunted inn in the north. And at 6-year-old, I experienced one night, lying on a couch opposite my mum and her friends, and no, they didn't see it, I did. A ghost, a female, probably in her 70s, clad in a white long robe, long white hair flowing, and she descended through the ceiling to probably 3 or 4 foot. And I looked upon her, and I was not frightened, more inquisitive. And then she ascended back through the ceiling. Now that's when I was 6-year-old. When I was 15, I talked to my mother, and she said, please don't tell any future girlfriends or whatever about your experiences. You could frighten them off. However, I'm a believer in telling the truth. I don't hide nothing. And if a woman doesn't like me and my occult work, then tough shit, isn't it? Basically. And continuing on from there, I've had no end, and I mean no end, of experiences of paranormal and supernatural encounters. I'm a very rare, strange guy, I admit that. But it strengthened me and given me power. And I mean power. If, for instance, someone asked me how many experiences I've had over 63 years, I'd quite simply say that in the palm of that hand, which is a big hand, if I grab a handful of sea sand, each individual grain of that sand is an experience in my life so far. So there's been countless experiences. I've been in the Royal Navy Reserves. Even then, in the Royal Navy Reserves, especially in the Falklands and elsewhere, the occult has followed me to reassure me through life that all of my experiences mean something. Not this reality of materialistic bullshit broadcast by media, broadcast by the Bilderberg Society of arseholes. And that's all they are, arseholes. They don't represent me and never will. And I'm not a brainwashed individual and never will be. I'm far too strong. I encountered at 28-year-old an entity rather than a demon. And I am very perplexed how certain people don't know the difference between an entity and a demon. And certainly they don't know the difference between illumination and enlightenment. And yet they go on the internet and mouth off. Come on. They go on the internet and mouth off. And they don't know what they're talking about. I've got the time for such individuals. My brain power is stronger than them. Always will be. So at 28, and I've uploaded this situation. I went out with a grey witch in London. I'm not going to mention her name. She may be here, she may not be, I don't know. I loved her, I had sex with her, as you do. Unfortunately, on one particular occasion, and this occasion has been uploaded for those who are interested, whereas the possession within her was an entity, and I have been told it could have possibly been a Djinn, D-J-I-N-N, because since I was 28, since I had that experience, encounter, which nearly killed me, I have experienced countless more worlds. I've been introduced to different realities, and believe you me, I do not touch any fucking drug. So, up those out there, the USA pricks who think I'm on drugs, and I mean it. I don't touch drugs. You want to take drugs, you take them. And this entity being tried to take me over. She came down and kissed me. She was nude and I was nude. So, and its tongue alienated. And I mean elongated to about a foot or more and wrapped itself round the back of my throat. And it did nearly kill me. I have to say, I was choking to death and nearly passed out. Now this is when I was 28. However, because I've studied the occult since I was 17, strongly, all aspects of the occult, and I mean vampirism, werewolfism, portals in dark space and time, Aleister Crowley, Kenneth Grant, you name it, I've studied everything. A really in-depth knowledge of it, which was thankful at 28. Because I then watched this beautiful girl, her eyes, her blue ocean eyes, turn and roll over into red demonic eyes, like a fiery eyes, no pupils. Her lips left me for a moment and said, "I want your soul. I want your soul." A dark, malevolent voice. That happened. You may laugh at it, but I don't give a toss what you gentlemen laugh at, or women. I'm telling you what actually happened to me. A tongue then wrapped itself round the root of my tongue and tried to tear it out. I then called on the Archangel Michael. He's quite powerful, probably powerful more than the rest of them. And I said telepathically to this being within her, which possessed her, that I was far more powerful than it. And before I passed out, her tongue went back into her mouth. Her eyes revolved back round and she felt to my right hand shoulder, crying her eyes out and said, "I'm sorry, Tom. I told you I was possessed." Now that was when I was 28. How many people have been through that at 28 and can come back out at 63 and talk like me? Very, very few people. In 1996, I drowned off the coast of Albania. Too many ouzo, had to be admitted, and swimming in hot heat, drowned, basically. I got the kiss of life and had cardiac arrest and was rushed to an Albanian hospital. This was 1996. There was over 300 people there. Thompson people would verify that. Thompson holiday makers, so that's not bullshit. And then I went to an Albanian hospital. That was an experience, I can tell you. And while in that Albanian hospital, I had near-death experiences, which have also been uploaded online. Which, as far as I'm concerned, tell a complete, rationalised experience of what the beings looked like, and what they were, and what I perceived. And bollocks to the so-called psychologists and physicists and all them idiots. They don't know nothing, never will know nothing. They're frightened to tell the truth, or they'll all be kicked out in the touch, won't they? In 1983, in May, in a place called Little Paxton, Cams, while I was visiting my good friend Kevin Monaghan, who at the time was a teacher of teachers. He taught teachers in carpentry expertise. Quite well paid, Kevin. While I was visiting him for a week, on the second day, I decided to go to St Neots Cams, because I was a hungry bugger. I was bodybuilding then. At about 8:45 in the morning or 9 o'clock time, I'm not quite sure now, in May 1983, through Little Paxton on the A10T, in a clear, bright, sunny day, I perceived, as did Kevin, what looked about 150 foot away, a balloon-shaped object, which was rolling in space. It was probably about 60, 70 foot on the ground, something like that. Now, I was driving at the time, and I don't ask me why to this day. I pulled up in front of the traffic lights, which were on green, switched the engine off and got out of the car I was hiring. Kevin got out as well. Nothing was said. Behind me was another 5 or 6 cars, and the owners and occupants of them cars done exactly the same thing, even though the traffic lights were on green. And they got out the cars and stood there. So this balloon, which was first seen, probably 250 foot away, suddenly turned into a shape, a pyramidal shape actually, and for strange reasons it stopped right opposite me. It stopped probably 4 or 5 foot high above a chimney top opposite me. So we're talking about 20 to 25 foot away, no more than that. And I clearly observed the following. Clearly. From the apex of the 4 base sides of the object was strobic blue lights, intermittent and flashing, in kind of a transparent tube, if you like. In the centre was a green kind of a mist. And if you tried to break through that mist with your eyes, you saw an orange sphere. And that orange sphere was also pulsating. Now I watched this for probably 8 minutes, at least that, as did everybody else, which is known as a collective conscious experience. That means lots of cerebral minds, conscious minds, witnessed the same object. I'm sure if we tried to contact all those people at the time, the majority of them would agree. Now I watched this craft do right angles to itself, right angle movements, no sound, no audible sound, just above the chimney top, 4 foot above the chimney top. And then it suddenly stopped and went up 10 to 40 feet and disappeared to the southwest at an incredible speed. I lost eyesight of it, incredible speed, faster than any man-made bullshit craft. Now that was in 1983 in May. In 1983, in September, that's the same year, I was driving a post office security vehicle, which is a job I'd done for 2 years. I was based at Kings Lynn, Norfolk. I observed about 1.5 miles away, or 1.25 miles away, another glowing kind of object, static in the field. Now, of course, I realised exactly what it was. It's not a UFO, if that's what you want to call it. There was nothing on the roadway. This is the A47 between Peterborough and Wisbech, which is normally quite busy. And let me assure you, there was nothing there at all. No sound of birds, nothing at all. Clear, bright sky. September 1983. So I drove down until I was opposite this object, which was standing still in a farmer's field. I switched off the security engine, and the reason for that is in case I heard any audible sound. Pulled the sharp long door across. You've got to kick a pedal to get this solid heavy 4 or 5 inch door to slide through. Remember, it's a security vehicle. I then crossed the road looking left and right, and there was bugger all there. There was no traffic, no lights from the distance, absolutely quiet. In fact, time had stood still. And this is what happens on a real close encounter. Time is irrelevant. So I walked up to a fence and climbed into the field area. I then walked towards the object. I was then probably 15 foot away, and this is what I observed. It was a cage. Yes, a cage. Its dimensions probably 8 foot by 8 foot, or probably bigger, but about 8 foot by 8 foot. No top, no bottom. I could see through the bars, there was nothing there. The same kind of cage you'd probably hold a beast in, or some kind of animal. But there was nothing there. And it was on the ground. I then walked a bit further. Now the bars, which I counted at between 8 or 10 round each of the 4 sides, were resonating a kind of a red-green blue, a red-green blue. They were emitting this colour. It was really bright and I had to rub my right eye. It was quite blinding. After a period of time, as I've said, time is irrelevant. Probably 4 or 5 minutes in this reality. As I walked nearer to the craft, probably 4 or 5 foot away, it began to ascend. And it ascended to about 40 feet, I imagine, and then disappeared. Now the sky was as clear as crisp could be and you could see the stars. There was no moon, there was no celestial objects. So up those sceptical pricks out there, there was no audible sound. And when it reached about 40 feet, it dematerialised. It kind of shimmered into nothing. It vanished, gone. So it disappeared into a dimensional spaceway. That's my opinion. Whether this was a time box or whether there's some kind of alien object, who knows? It could be an alien form. We aren't the only form in the universes, and have to say universes, not universe. I have no time for the physicists of life and scientists. They talk bullshit. I've had too many experiences. So that was a cage, and that's been uploaded with a lot more information. And that was in May. That was in September 1983. May 1983 was a pyramidal shaped object which may have been a probe, and that's also been uploaded. Now in 1996, a good year for me, because I ran the New Fog, which is the Norfolk UFO group at that time for 4 or 5 years, I was approached and asked to go on BBC radio. And there's a local place in Kingsley, Norfolk. I believe it's still there. So I went on BBC Radio Norfolk, which went right across the country, and talked for 45 minutes about my experiences, which went down very well. That was in 1994, probably October. Also around the same time, I was asked to go in the time and place. John Stapleton was there at the time, and I went to Anglia Studios and did a talk on there, although I must say I wasn't very proficient, and I didn't look my 30 years. I looked a young kid, really. However, I went on there. Now in 1992, on the 18th of December, at 23:45 PM. That is 1992, the 18th of December, at 23:45 PM. I had a fill-in job as a pizza delivery driver, which I didn't mind doing, because you meet people. Now this was the last delivery of the night. I've also uploaded all the full contents of this online. And what then occurred is I slowed the vehicle down in a place called Fairstead Estate, Kingsley, Norfolk. Just a 700 weight van. My last delivery of a pizza. Quarter mile away, I saw quite clearly, because it was a clear, crisp night, there was no celestial objects, there was no aircraft prominent. In fact, what happened was a reality and not bullshit observed by the skeptical prats out there. As I've always been available for any scientific scrutiny whatsoever to prove the validity of what I'm saying. But do they take me on? No, because none of these skeptics have got the guts to meet me in a debate, mouthy pricks. So, I slowed my vehicle down. Now this was 1992. And at that period of time I was still running New Fog, the Norfolk UFO group. As a ufologist you use a bit of brains. You switch the engine off, sod the pizza, to see if there's any audible sound. Now, this is about 1:45 to midnight. from about a quarter of a mile away, I observed a large silver star, four-pointed star by the way, hanging in the sky. Not a celestial star, no way. And this is probably, I don't know, a mile and a half down from the heavens, if you like, and it just hung there. Huge silver star, four-pointed. Again, as an occultist, one automatically knows, not assumes, there's something going to happen. Now I watched this star, switched the engine off and sat in the van down this main roadway. There's nothing there. And it suddenly extinguished like a house bulb in a room. Went out, blown, gone out, vanished in the darkness of space. Wasn't there. So I then wound down my driver's side window to wait further phenomenon, because I knew it was going to happen, because I've been psychic from a little boy. Psychic. And sure enough, within seconds rather than minutes, I then observed the following. An oval-shaped craft, which was then about 80 foot away. No more, no less. Now this craft had a dull red rusty colour, not unlike the colour seen on metals removed from a furnace or a forge, because I've done engineering work. That's why I was a technician in a brewery. I know my stuff. So the hull of the craft was a kind of a dull rusty red colour. The craft was about 40 foot long by 10 foot high from the base to the dome-shaped aperture, dome-shaped, which kind of moulded into the rest of the craft anyway. There was no windows, there was no symbols, there was no sound. So I observed this through the open window of this van for, as I said, a period of time. I don't know time. Time's irrelevant on these occasions. I'm fed up with telling people that. It's totally irrelevant. And no, I didn't have a camera on me. You don't carry a camera 24/7 every effing day, do you? Unless you're a prick. So, after a while, this craft, which was travelling less than 5 miles per hour, which was easily observable, I then observed some lights rotating at its base. Now, I was looking up at its base from this window, 80 foot away, from this car window, or van window, sorry. Now, the lights, if you want to call them that, orange lights, were rotating in a clockwise motion. That's looking up. I later believed that they weren't actual lights, but exhaust ports emitting some kind of alien essence, energy, because after these lights came up, the craft stopped, and in front of it, probably 10 feet away, no more than that, I observed a kind of mirror being created. Now, believe you me, the sky was as clear as a bell. You could see the stars. No moon, clear as a bell. And yet this mirror was being fabricated and created. I don't know, the height of it was higher than the actual craft, so it must have been 15 to 20 foot and wider. It was like an aberration of space-time. Began to shake at intervals. Behind this mirror was the same stars and space that I'd seen anyway. So what had happened is the port exhausts, which were opened up and released this strange alien energy, had created a time portal, space gate if it were. And then I watched this craft go through it very slowly. As it was going through it very slowly, I then had the sense, the very, very strong sense, that the occupants, the pilots on board this craft, were well aware of my presence looking at them. And believe me, I wasn't frightened, and I had the vision that I was going to get beamed on board, and I would have welcomed that, because I fear nothing in the unknown. and I mean nothing. So this craft went through and disappeared and vanished, and the mirror just went poof and was gone. So in actual fact, the four-pointed star that I had first seen some 8-10 minutes ago, I don't know, because time's irrelevant, as I've said, was actually not a star but an opening in space and time created by this craft to come through our planet and then leave it again. Like a tunnel, if you like. Now, since then, I've also uploaded experiences I've had on a beautiful place called Iona, a mystical place, where Christianity was supposed to have been given birth. But anybody with any psychic power perceives many things. And in 2012 and in 2014, when I stayed for 3 weeks, I experienced many, many things. Atlanteans, Knights Templars walking through a wall and back through another wall. Gnomes or little red-horned demons, if you wish, with their horn swept back over the head, 3 foot tall. Green, strange goblins. A flying nun who told me certain things, which I'm not going to obviously say here now. Certain words which mean a key, which I've yet to find out. A nun in the nunnery who flew some 10 or 15 foot just above, horizontally, this archway in the nunnery in Iona. In 2012, I had experienced and cried pretty badly of fairies, and I don't give a toss who'd think I'm an idiot. I'd shove that up your nose, boys and girls. There were fairies. It was a fantastic experience. I've experienced 90% more than the humans on this planet, and there must be a reason for it. And before I go, it must be said that in the Navy, the Royal Navy Reserves, which I was in for 10 years, I experienced many other strange occult phenomena, and in the Falklands. I got damn good commission and commendation in the Navy throughout, top marks. I started as an engineering technician in Whitbread's brewery from school and got top marks and was there for 10 years. Gas pressurised electronic dispense systems. I'm a very clever guy. And then I went from there because of something happened to my parents and moved to King's Lynn. And I worked for a while for another firm, Seater Tracking Division, till I went into the post office and worked there for 10 years, 5 in King's Lynn and 5 in the post office. I had to leave the post office because unfortunately I got chest infections continually, but not until 10 years had passed. I then went back to King's Lynn and got a job as a pizza delivery man. And other jobs in factories. Another job came up at Ward's Brewery, Sheffield, so I applied for that, and out of 187 people got that job. I'm not shy of work, and I'm a clever individual. And the last thing I have to say is, druggies, piss off. So thanks very much for listening to me. And oh, by the way, I'm not frightened of the Illuminati either. I may have some money come my way, and I intend fully to investigate what happened to Max Spears, who was bumped off, assassinated, as were a lot of other ufologists. So up the security forces. Thank you.